houses wins. So do you even have a goal as to what you're going to do? Do you look at that goal every single day? Do you know where you are against the goal? Right now, what I find in coaching is that many agents don't know their numbers. And so by not knowing your numbers, I mean, could you imagine Nordstrom's or even a restaurant that didn't know how many people they served, the money that came in, the money that went out, and they know it every single day. When I was younger, I had an opportunity to work in my dad's grocery store. And of course, he started teaching me sales when I was 5. I was over the magazine rack. And I learned that if someone picked up a car magazine, I was to quickly grab all the other car magazines and say, if you like those, you'll like these. Because see, I was paid every single book that I sold. I knew my numbers back then. And so who taught you about numbers? And if no one has taught you, please write this down. I got to know my numbers. In a shift, you've got to know how many homes are on the market. You need to know how many homes sold yesterday. You need to be able to know that better than anybody because the scripts that you use will actually allow you to shine when you're in front of a seller or in front of a buyer. They will allow you to get the home priced correctly because you know your numbers. And you can use that against every other agent out there when you're in front of a seller. To say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, did anybody else tell you about the numbers that I'm showing you, the number of homes that are on the market today? Not as of June 1st or as of July 1st or as of October 1st. It's every single day. Are you checking your numbers?
Ooh, that birdie said yes.
You know what? That's right. It's like I get so passionate sometimes that it squeaks every day. So when I looked at this, and of course, Tony's so nice. He says, can you do this class for me? I said, yeah, sure. How long do I have to prepare?
It's today.
It's today. I said, okay, well, I have these meetings going on. And so on the way over here, I'm going through an outline with Ann. She's writing, telling me what I'm going to talk to you guys about. And so I'm going to go back to the time and just travel with me. It's 2005. I just arrived in Austin. And I'm to speak to the RDs, first time I've ever been there because I just started at International. And I stood in front of them and I said, we're in a shift. And they looked at me and said I was crazy. Because see, in Denver, tracking those numbers every day, you can tell when it's going to hit. Are you tracking your numbers every day? If you were in front of a seller today, could you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, today there are 23,123 homes on the market. And in the last week, there were 723 that sold. Therefore, we have this month's supply on the market. And that supply is going to be your competition. Do you know your numbers well enough to do that? And I'm going to absolutely say that is how you will take over the market. That is one way, because you will be more knowledgeable. You'll become the local expert that Gary Keller talks to us about becoming. Now, the other part about this shift is it's always fun because, see, the media isn't telling people about it yet.
Right.
So now this puts you as the local expert, and sellers are not going to want to, they're not going to want to understand. They think the prices are still up here. So you've got to know your scripts and dialogues better than ever. Because the market that you're entering into is going to show your skill. I remember in coaching, this lady came up to me and said, I need a great coach. I am a $50 million producer. I said, oh my gosh, that's fabulous. So tell me, what did you do last year? And she said, well, I did 30 million. I said, okay, so you're a $50 million producer and you did 30 million. She says, oh, well, there's a shift. And I only did 30 million because of the shift. And I said, well, then you're a $30 million producer and the market gave you 20 million when it was good. I'm a $50 million producer. See, be careful, because your skill says the level of your production. I don't know where I'm getting that.
Yes.
Your skill. So how skilled are you, and are you practicing? Diane brought up about the football players, right? That they watch film. Well, have you filmed your listing presentation? Have you watched it? Do you record it? Do you practice it with somebody? Because perfect practice makes perfect, is what Vince Lombardi told us. Now, these are things that you say, yeah, I know this. It's not about knowing it. It's, are you doing it? Can you imagine the football player saying, I'm just going to wait and practice on Notre Dame on Saturday. I don't need to practice any other time. And we would say, are you kidding? You're our football team. We expect you to win. And so I'm sitting here saying, you know what? You're our company, and we expect you to win. Are you preparing to win? Are you literally role-playing every single day with someone? And who do you role-play with? Somebody that just lets you get an appointment and doesn't give you at least 5 objections? And do you know how to handle those objections? How good are you? If we brought you up front, would you be able to do a listing presentation just like that? Because in a shift, that's going to be needed. Now, some people say, well, Diana, when you went into a shift, what did you do? First of all, I came into real estate, and then the shift happened. So it was like, oh, I didn't know this is how real estate was, yeah. Right? And I started with an assistant. Now, back in those days, nobody had an assistant. In 1980-something, I brought in a buyer's agent. Nobody had that. In fact, the company wanted to fire me. They actually ended up firing me because I wanted a second buyer's agent, so I was out of there. And then this thing started that Gary Keller, the 7th level. Now, you guys, many of you were brought in with teams already being formed, right? How many of you, when you came into real estate, knew about teams? You were already there. How many of you said, I had no idea that teams even existed? They were never around in my real estate company. Okay? See, I think if you're with Keller Williams, teams were around since 1990, right? At the very end. So you guys are being brought in with knowing that teams are around in real estate. Yet, do you know your team's conversion? Do you know, in fact, here it says, tactic 5. I'm going to use my shift book. I went and had the ends cut off.
Oh, yeah.
And the spot, yeah, because I can open it up and look at it. And so, tactic 5, it says, get to the table. It's called lead conversion. Now, how many of you are converting your leads? Most people never run far enough on their first win to find they've got a second one. Are you willing to go into an appointment and literally keep closing and closing and closing and closing? And do you have enough scripts and dialogues to close and close and close and close? Could you answer an objection 5 to 7 different ways? And if not, that's okay. What a great opportunity. See, a lot of people want us to come in here and they want to say, oh, Diana, tell us this shift is really great and it's wonderful and it's easy. And yet I'm here to tell you, it is great, it is wonderful, and it's simple, not easy. Because your lead conversion, you got to go in time and time and time again. And people say, well, I just want to build a relationship. Because people love to do business with people that they like. And that is true. They got to like and trust you. In a shift, they want to do business with the person that will sell their house. Your sold signs have got to go up faster than they've ever gone up to prove. And when someone calls in and says, I've seen your signs in the area, you say, you mean my sold signs. Why would you say that to them?
Yeah, it changes the whole
To remind them that you sell property, you just don't list it. Because when you're in front of them, you're going to remind them. Some people just want their listings so they can get all the buyers. Right? The other part is, are you tracking your conversions? One client said, Dianna, I have a 90% conversion ratio on my listings. And I said, so was that with your mother, your brother, who are you converting? Are you just going on come list me's, or are you really going out for sale by owners and expires? Because right now, for sale by owners are going to start popping up in a shift. They're going to want to save money. And so you've got to become the master at for sale by owners if you want to take territory. See, this shift, you guys can come out so far on top, you can literally put the other companies out of business if you choose to. Somebody will be put out of business. The question is, will it be you or will it be them? A shift is no different than a fire in a forest that clears out the trees and allows new to come to them. That's what a shift does. It clears out all the people that do not want to work, all the people that don't understand business, and all the people that are not willing to pay the price. See, every one of us have a dream. Every one of us go to sleep at night and we wake up with a dream. And we all want that. And yet every dream comes with a price. Every dream you've got to pass through the toll booth. And the question is, are you willing to pay the toll? Are you willing to pay the price that it takes? It's not a matter of will the shift hit us. It's a matter of when will it hit the hardest. Now, Gary Keller said on stage at Mega Camp there's a 36 touch. And it starts out with 4 phone calls. And I can't tell you how many people go, I don't want to call. I don't want to beg for business. If I call my past clients, it'll be like begging for business. And I go, really? Really? That's a myth. Because see, here's the interesting part. You sell someone a home. What's your average commission? Shout it out.
9,000.
9,000. Okay, so I look at you. I bought a home from you, or I sold a home through you, and I'm smart enough to read that little part, the commission, right? Now, the sad part is the seller thinks that he paid all of it to you, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes he doesn't realize that there's other people and other things involved. And so now they think they paid you $9,000. And you don't even call to find out how they're doing? I'm telling you, if somebody paid me $9,000, I'd want another $9,000. So when can I get it? You know? And here's the funny part. I would have people actually call me and say, Dianna, you sold me our house and we want to sell. Would you come and list it? And of course, I'd look up in Top Producer at the time, right? And it would say, clients of so-and-so. It was a co-op. Mm-hmm. You know what? I called them. The other people didn't, so they thought it was me. Now, I was very kind at Keller Williams. I did not call. The people, if Keller Williams sold my property, I would go by, though, and say, have you called your person lately? And I put it in my deal, because, man, if they ever left Keller Williams, I was right on that one, right? I'm going to call those orphans. Somebody has to own them. And they would call saying, you sold me the house. Now, do I have permission to just really coach the way I coach, which is pretty in your face?
Go for it.
Well, some of you are going, say yes. Okay. So I don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody because they may think that I'm bugging them. I don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody because, after all, they might reject me. I don't want to, there's a certain word you hear in there a lot. What is it? I, me. Oh, so it's all about you. Okay, the energy just really See, people say, I love to contribute to other people. I love to help other people, and I'm here to tell you, if you won't pick up the phone, that is a myth. That's something you got in your head. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Turn to your neighbor and say, I've been crazy before.
I've been crazy before.
If you really cared about me, you would pick up the phone and talk with me. Otherwise, it's all about not serving me. Now, I told you I was going to get blunt with you. Now you can see why Tony's so doggone good, right? Yeah. Some of you will get that tomorrow. I get it. No, I'll tell you a funny story, though. How do you learn your scripts and dialogues to convert?
Practice.
Practice. So Tony DeCello is in a mastermind group with me. And with the company we were with, he was always the one that was the moderator, and there were 3 of us, generally, that were up front that would handle the scripts and dialogues. And so people would come in, and they, on a little card, would write down the objection, and Tony would go through them, and he would give them to us, and we would just off the cuff handle them, right? Well, we did this one time, and he goes, I really would like to get some of those scripts and that. I said, oh, I'll help you. Well, time passed, and he had gone through a divorce, and I'd been divorced for like 15 years, I guess, and he calls me one time, and he asked me out. Now, I don't know about you ladies that are single. I didn't go to dinner as the first date. Why would you not do that?
Too long.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I got an appointment. I can go to breakfast, though. And then that way I have an appointment, right? So it can be short or it can be long, depending on what I want. And so here we are at breakfast. And we're having a great time. And he pulls out this old, clunky recorder. You know, it actually had tapes in it. For those of you who don't know what a tape is, it's got this thing drill, and turn around, right, and hit the record button and the play button at the same time. That was the only way it would record. And he brings this out and he said, I really want to learn your scripts and dialogues. Here I thought he was asking me out for a date. He just wanted to
We had to get some scripts so that he could ask you out for a date.
So romantic. And so when we're sitting there, we're going through scripts, and he's giving me objections, and I'm saying, this is the reason. See, your scripts have got to be like a pool game. You do not take a shot without knowing where you're going to put the cue ball for the next shot, right? And sometimes you're 3 or 4 shots ahead. That's why you practice, because you've got to know. In fact, don't ask a question you don't already pretty much know the answer to, is what my dad always taught me. And so when you go in front of a seller or a buyer, you need to know where you want to end up. And then you ask the questions which logically bring them to that surmise. Because if it's their idea, will they believe it?
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's your idea, will they believe it? No, you're just selling. And some people think selling is telling, and it's actually asking questions. So here we are, and I thought, well, he wants to know scripts and dialogues. I'll show him how to learn scripts and dialogues. Because I'm a little upset, right? I mean, I thought I was going on a date, and he just wanted my brain. Doggone it. So,
Dianna, he was just learning how to ask you out. He wanted good scripts so he could actually get the nerve up. Knowing Tony.
Knowing Tony, you're right. That's true. So I call him up. Now, in those days, you had car phones. They were actually into your car. You didn't take them
Stuck.
out, right? And he answered the phone, and he said, Tony. And I said, I would list with you if you'll take it at my price. And he goes, what? I said, you don't know your scripts and dialogues, and hung up the phone. A little bit later, I called him. He said, hello, Tony. And I said, the other person said they'd take it at 4%. And he goes, well, one of the things, and he was stammering, I said, you still don't know your scripts. Learn the doggone things. Hung up the phone, right? Well, we got to the point, because he started doing that back, and do you know scripts and dialogues that off the cuff? If you're walking down the hall and someone gave you an objection, could you handle it like that? Because that's how a quarterback on the football field is. That's how a fumble, man, everybody's after the ball. You can't afford to fumble in a shift. So learn those scripts and dialogues, and it's all up to you. Now, what I found that is the easiest is I name my scripts and dialogues, and I put them on little flip cards, and I went through those 3x5 cards, and I'd look at the back of the script, friend in the business. I knew what I was going to say. The minute a seller would say, I have a friend in the business. First of all, if a for sale by owner has a friend in the business, and they have a for sale by owner sign outside,
You can already tell.
do they really care about listing with their friend?
Exactly.
See, you gotta, don't buy their stuff. People said, you are so doggone good, Tony said, people can't get by you. And I go, well, listen, the next time you go with me. And he went to a listing with me with a for sale by owner. Said, it's not that I'm good. I'm no different than every one of you here. I only handled the objections I chose to handle. You ask them enough questions till you get to the objection you want, and then you handle it. Are you prepared to do that? You cannot do that unless you are practicing. Okay, I'm going to show you how this works. And you can tell I took Tony's outline and didn't know what it said, so I'm just going to go for it. Who wants to play a game with me? I won't hurt, I promise.
Come on.
Who will volunteer? Who will volunteer?
Andy will.
Okay, great. Come on
Come
now.
on, Andy.
Okay, you are going to face this way.
Okay.
Okay? And I am going to find a marker somewhere.
We'll find you a marker.
They're going to give me a marker, and I'm going to show you how this game works.
Okay.
It's called, it's not a permanent, is it? No, I think
We're good.
Okay, now you have to keep facing that way.
Okay.
Okay?
And by the way, Andy has been such a volunteer lately.
Yeah.
Yep. Wrote us big check for the Louisiana flood relief.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
He's a good one.
Concert was actually really good.
Yep, good.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just
Andy's
wrote
nervous.
down something, I don't know if you guys can see it, you'll get to it here in just a moment. Do you play cards?
Yes.
So you know what a deck of cards is like, right? Okay. And in a deck of cards, there's certain suits, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The spades and clubs and the hearts and diamonds, am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, which ones are red?
The hearts and the diamonds.
You're right. Which ones are black?
The spades and the clubs.
You're right. So choose one, red or black.
Red.
That's correct. So now in those red cards, there are numbers and there are face cards. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so choose one.
Uh,
Numbers or face?
Face.
You're right. And with those, there are the low, which is Jack, and the high, which is Queen and King. Choose one, low or high.
High.
You are just batting 100. That's awesome. And in the high, you said there were queens and kings. Choose one.
Queen.
And with the queen, so we have a queen of diamonds and a queen of hearts. Is that correct?
That's right.
Right, so choose one.
Queen of hearts.
America's Got Talent.
So either I led you really well or we were really on
Yeah, I was
safe.
like, I don't know.
No, what if he would have said diamonds? I would have said, then that leaves hearts, doesn't it? And he would have said right. It doesn't matter what people say, it's do you have the question to ask them to get them to think the way you choose for them to think.
Yeah.
And that's how objections are handled. It's not tricking them. Did
No.
you feel like you were being tricked?
No, not once.
Was it logical?
Somewhat, yeah. I was guessing, but yeah, I mean, it felt like you asked questions and.
And did I affirm you when you were right?
Yes, you did.
See, so your sellers may be guessing, your buyers may be guessing, and yet you affirm them when they say the right things, or you say, well, now here's another thing to think about. You are the salesperson. You got to be in control. If you're only talking about, well, first I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, you're telling them you have no control. You're hoping they're listening to you. And by the way, you guys have already tuned me out at least, well, in 30 minutes, you've tuned me out at least 110 times. So thank you. Give Andy a...
Yay, Andy!
That's the next thing that I want to say, because in this shift, by the way, get the shift book out. I said shift. Shift. Which can sound like something else when you really get into it. 4 calls to your database. It's now 36 touch, not 33 touch. Thank you. And 4 calls, once a quarter, okay? What I found, it worked for me, it may work for you, is I went through all of my database, and S and T's had the most. The next one was M's. Yours is going to be different. Literally look at the alphabet and then say, I'm going to call this alphabet this week, this one this week, and you plan out so you're making at least 20 calls a day. A minimum, contacts, not calls. Contacts. Why in a shift is it important to contact them, not just leave a message? This is participatory. It's okay.
To build the bridge. You got to build the bridge with them.
Well, yeah, because if it's just another message, I get messages all the time.
Right.
It's literally dialogue, conversations. Conversations have got to happen in a shift. You just don't have them think about you, because after all, they heard that 20 other realtors got out of the business. How do they even know that you're around? And they didn't call me, so did they really care about me?
Right.
We did a panel one time. It was at the Realtor Rally in Denver. And we had buyers and sellers. We had 4 buyers, 4 sellers. And we interviewed them. And you know what? The number one thing they didn't like about realtors is after they gave the check, nobody
Never
cared.
heard from them.
Yeah.
And even when they called with a problem, the realtor wouldn't even call them back.
No.
I'm going, oh my gosh. You know what? How many people I picked up and how many referrals I picked up because somebody else sold the house? It was their seller. My buyer was upset. I went over and took care of it. When my seller did something, and I didn't say, well, it's the seller, contact them, or it's the other realtor. You know what? Put some slush fund aside. Call it marketing money. And so you go out and you buy some towel racks because they took them down. The weirdest one was though when they took the toilet. Shift happens. Okay, topic 7, price ahead of the market. This is a big one, isn't it? Because nobody wants to think that their home isn't worth what they think it is in today's market. Well, 2 months ago, yes. So here's something that works. It works every time because of the way the brain works. So learn how to write upside down. So when you're facing the sellers and you put them together, right? You don't play the tennis match. And they're there across the table from you and you're drawing on your paper, you're writing upside down. They're very impressed with that. And they go, I can't believe that you can do that. And I said, oh yeah, I've done this a bunch. Now, they don't know if you're talking about selling houses or writing upside down, and I don't care. So here's the thing. When I say, which way is the market going, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? And I draw an arrow. And the worst they can say, if they don't, most of them said down, they said, well, it looks like it's going down. That's right. Thank goodness I'm sitting in front of you today because I'm a local expert. I track the market. In fact, as of this morning at 9 a.m., there were 43,167 homes on the market. And this is how many sold. See, those numbers alone absolutely have people take notice of who you are and the fact that you are the local expert. And when they say, well, we're thinking about this other realtor, oh, I certainly understand that. By the way, did they have the number of homes that were on the market? Well, no. Oh, do you know what concerns me about that? Is they're not watching the market, therefore they won't be able to get you top dollar. Doesn't that concern you? You do want top dollar, right? Excellent. So sign and press hard. The bottom part. What are you doing to set yourself apart? And are you willing to talk that way? Are you willing to tell them that you're the best? Are you willing to stay there and tell them that you'll camp out if need be?
Yes.
Got my sleeping bag in the car. I can stay here and have you think it over if you'd like. I mean, whatever. Now, you guys laugh. I'm sitting there telling you. Here's the difference. I had 2 kids at home. At one point, I had my sister's 2 kids living with me. So 4 kids. It was a heck of a lot easier to sit there and answer their objections and take a stand for me getting that listing than to go home and tell my kids I didn't know if they were going to eat or not. See, I like my family better than I like them. And they were going to help me with my family. Now that sounds a little harsh. Most people, when I listed their home, they didn't see me as a friend unless I'd worked with them before. The friendship and relationship was built so strong during the listing because I called them every single Wednesday morning and they knew that I would call. See, when you call them, they blame the market. When you don't call them, they blame you. And some people say, well, I can't call them. And I go, that's your ego talking. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, the shift has no room for an ego. So when you truly care about other people, you'll do what's necessary to get the home sold. See, the interesting part to me is that Gary Keller gives us all the answers here. He says there's 7 maxims for pricing in a shifted market. Be a student of the market. That's what I've been talking about all along. And focus your main comps on the actives. Because people, how many homes do they look at on average before they buy? I don't know in today's market. We found about 12 in the days, thank you, that I was there. So here's what I would say. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, just out of curiosity, is this the only home you looked at when you bought it? What do you think their answer is?
No.
So how many homes did you look at? And they could say anything. So somebody role play with me. How many homes did you look at before you bought?
6.
6 homes. Excellent. So those 6 homes, this was one of the 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you literally looked at 5 homes and said no.
The possibilities. But I like
Yeah.
this
So
one.
when you bought this home, you looked at 6. So you looked at 5, and then you bought this home. So that's really great. You know what? Your home is going to be up against at least 5 in today's market. So the question is, do you want to price it to sell? Or would you like to get more price? Would you like to get a higher price? What do you think they'll say?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Then let's price it lower. In fact, it sounds really weird to price low to get high, doesn't it? Let me ask you, have you ever been to an auction?
Yes.
Were you intrigued because the price was low enough that you got into the auction?
Mm-hmm.
And then you found what happened to the price?
Went up.
So see, if your home is a great buy, you're going to attract more buyers. And when you have more buyers, what can happen to the price? In a shift, we still had multiple offers. It was the price you put on the home in the get-go. Now, some people say, look at my price. I'm not telling you anything that you guys haven't heard before. Put your price reductions in your listing contracts. 10 showings, no offers, it's priced too high. 2 weeks, no showings, price too high. And you got to say that at the appointment in a shift. Okay? How many of you already know everything I've already told you? It's okay.
No.
Now the question is, how many of you are doing it, right? Skills are the name of the game. Gary Keller tells us on page 195, you got to have skill. The market will outskill you in a shift. Now, we had 4 people on the team. A person that took care of our listings, a person that took care of our under contract, Sean and myself. Shane, my other son, came and helped us during summertime. He was going to medical school, so he only had the summers. You don't need a lot of people, you need skill. Now, in today's world, I'd build a big team, but I would have started with everybody having skill. Greg Harrelson, one of my very, very good friends, we always had a plan as to who would sell 1,000 homes before the other, right? He's got 32 people on his team, and he sold 2,000 homes last year. You need skill. What I'm getting at is get your skills, because you can't teach your team how to have skills without having skills yourself. Or bring them to Matt's group coaching, we'll give them the skills. I mean, that's why we're there. So when we look at our conversion rates, when we look at our numbers, when we know our numbers, what numbers should you track? How many contacts you make, what else?
Appointments.
Appointments, yes, that you go on.
How many contracts you actually sign?
How many
Listings?
you get from those appointments, yes. How many go under contract? How many close? In a shift, we used a 10% dropout. You know why? Because when a deal didn't go through, we weren't standing by it. We went, wow, we're not at 10% yet, so we're doing good. And we went on. Some people spend 5 days saving a deal that they didn't ever save. And I went, you just lost 5 days. Don't get so hung up. Know that some of them are going to drop off. Do everything you can on the upfront. In a shift, it's going to be very important that you get people qualified. Now, some of you are liking what you're hearing, and some of you are going, I'm not sure. I can tell you after going through 4 shifts, it's going to be the best time of your life when you handle it correctly. You got to create urgency. Everything has to be urgent. So you can't act like you have 900 years to do something and expect them to act any different. Got to be urgent. When you get flyers, you get them over there right away. Urgency in a shift should be painted everywhere in your office. Because the way you act is the way that they'll act towards you. So I'd like to hear what you've heard thus far. And if you have any questions, because I know my time is getting up and you guys want lunch. I'm telling you, the energy has been a little flat today. I gotta tell you, I'm used
We're
to
so
most people
enamored
going,
by you.
Woo, you know, let's go. Yeah.
One of the things I was listening to you, it's really important the words we choose, how we control, and the meaning of those words we give to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to, that was a big aha, because that's what we're studying with your language of sales right now. So knowing your scripts and also the meaning and the way that you inflect with your words and you choose those. And then it will also direct and control where you want that conversation to go and the outcome. Because we're in control, not them.
Right. Well, for you to get the listing, you've got to be in control. That's perfect. The words we choose. See, here's one thing. This is why I recorded everything. Because I would go up to a for sale by owner, or I'd call and I'd say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, if I had a buyer willing to pay a price acceptable to you, would you accept that offer through my company? And they would say, well, do you have a buyer? And I'd go, wrong words. I don't want that answer. So then I changed that when I find a buyer that is interested in your home, are you willing, to accept an offer through my company? Totally different response. Ladies and gentlemen, real estate is a science. Most people get into it, and that's why I wrote Bold. They wanted a life by default. Oh, is somebody going to call me today to let me be their broker? Why did I do that? I mean, can you imagine a doctor saying, oh, I wonder if somebody's going to call me today so I can do surgery on him? Really? Don't you study? This is a profession. And some people say, I don't want to be called a salesperson. And I go, why not? Nothing happens till a sale is made. This whole world, we control the world. Salespeople control the world. Now, I always wanted it to revolve around me. That was a joke. It sure doesn't. Nothing happens till a sale is made, and it's up to us to dominate the market. I didn't want anybody else to get that listing, because that was my listing if I wanted it. I was not going to let them determine my fate. Don't let somebody else determine your fate. Okay, what other questions do you have? I can get real passionate about all of this. I'm real sorry. But I just see you guys as such great people. And I will not stand for people to stand for their limitations. I'm going to take a stand for people's greatness, whether they like me or not. See, confidence, people think it's, oh, if people like me, I'll have confidence. And I'm saying, no, you got confidence when you don't care if people like you or not. You're willing to tell them the truth. And in a shift, you better tell them the truth.
That's right.
You know, you could say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I appreciate that the realtor said that. And, you know, I could sit here tonight and at a weak moment allow you to end up with a weak agent. I'm not going to do that. Because I know what happens in this market, and I don't want to see that happening to you. May I explain? And they go, yes, and the energy just shifted, just like it is here. And then you lower your voice and go, look, let me show you what's happening in today's market. And you lay it out in front of them. Because Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you went to a doctor and they discovered that you had something that was wrong, even a fatal disease, would you not want them to tell you? Would you not want to know the truth? Well, then if at any time I make you feel uncomfortable, then you know I'm telling you the truth. Right. And you do want the truth, don't you? So here's what it is. I know you're saying it's not surgery. It is financial surgery. Your finances. And I'm here to get you the most money. Otherwise, your home's going to sit on the market, and that realtor is going to get buyer after buyer, and they really don't care if your home sells. You're still making them money. Do you want to make money for something that they're not performing for you? I mean, see, you've got to put doubt in their mind. In a shift, here's what happens. And actually, this is in every market. I don't care what you are convincing people of doing. This is how it works. They think that they have a positive present, especially if for sale by owner. Everything's wonderful. I can do it all myself, right? You've got to make certain that you put them in a negative present. Because what happens is if they think they're going to end up roses, they won't ever go with you. I'm going to make them so deathly afraid that if they don't go with me, their house something could happen to them. So now, from a negative present, I got to make certain that they understand they're going to have a negative future unless they miss. Gold was written this year, 2009. Some of the people in this room were at the beta test. They were there for 17 people in 1980. We tested everything. I stood up and I talked like I did today. And they would ask questions. And then we had all of it transcribed. And then I went through and wrote how the brain works. Now, if you come to our office at International and had to stop the window washers from taking everything off my window, because I have sticky notes everywhere. And it's bold, because we're getting, I'm doing a little bit of a rewrite with it right now as we go into the shift and making things a little bit better that we found. And you got to make certain it's all written with the brain in mind. Your brain, your seller's brain, and your buyer's brain. Because of the way that we fire and wire and everything that happens, we got to take things in sequence. So all these sticky notes are everywhere. And the other day I was moving them around, and they actually have codes so I can put them back if I don't like the way I moved them. And I thought I had it all worked out, and then all of a sudden I noticed they're not ready to accept that yet. And so I had to put that back over into step 4 and rearrange a little bit. Bold is written in a way that allows you to make a choice. Your bold coach does not change your life. I do not change your life. You make a decision. The words that are used in bold, that's why they have to use them exactly. That's why they have the films of me, because I want it said exactly a certain way. That, plus the environment that you create, allows you to change your line. To say it's not a little frightening, I remember my first for sale by owner that I called. I hid under the desk. I didn't want anybody to even hear me. When I went to my first door and I knocked on the door and I took my step back and I was sitting there thinking about what I was going to say, literally, I wasn't. I was going, oh God, please don't answer the door. Please don't answer the door. Please don't answer the door. And then I realized if they don't answer the door, I can't sell anything. Please answer the door. Please answer the door. What are you doing? Where are you going? Bold will help you through that. Bold is allowing you to have fear or faith, and you've got to choose every second. See, so many people don't have the life that they truly deserve because they live their life in fear all the time. And that fear is so crazy because most of it never happens, what we're fearful of. And you know what? When you call it for sale by owner, I messed up one day. Diane, I called it for sale by owner, and then I went to the next one, so I thought. I called the same one back, Andy, and guess what? They didn't remember it was me. I mean, I think you're giving yourself way too much credit. That drunk monkey inside your head is going, you know, well, what will you look like? They won't remember. They're too busy looking at themselves. You know, so when you think about this, bold is written to help you, to allow you to have a life by design, because you deserve it. And you'll never get further than your imagination will allow you to. And bold is about scripts and dialogues, yes. It's about taking listings. It's about making contacts. More importantly, though, it's about your self-esteem and building your confidence in real estate. And allowing yourself to show up as the leader and to literally gain all of the things that you so deserve in your life. Because where you are today is literally by choice. Absolutely. Every choice we make puts us in a new place. Then we make another choice and we're in a new place. So people don't think that they design their life, and yet they do. Every one of us is designing our life every second. You chose to be here. Other people chose not to. Some of you may be saying to the other people, well, I made a good choice. I don't know. It's up to you what you'll take away from today. I didn't make it so everybody would like me. There will be some of you that will say, I would never say what she said. Some people said, I had one guy at family reunion come up to me and they go, you know, I was in one of your script classes at family reunion last year, and I would never say what you said. It is so harsh. And I go, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I said, so, just out of curiosity, do you get all the listings that you go on? Well, no. I said, okay. Do you get the listings you want? No, not always. And then my husband, bless his heart, who is so in your face, says, well, see, that's the difference. She uses those scripts and gets the listings, and you use your own and don't. It's not about being in your face. It's not about being rude. It's about having the tonality that they know you care. Because nobody's going to sign that contract until you give them your heart. And I'm telling you, when you give somebody your heart, and I gave it in bold, I was willing to say things that realtors don't want to hear because I care so deeply about every one of you. I don't know if everyone truly understands when I left Denver, Colorado, I left my family back there. In those days, we didn't have the 7th level that you kept your business going because when you were a team leader, you didn't compete. Now, I still get referral fees out of the Kokoszka group. It just doesn't exist, right? I'm still getting referral fees out of my clients. Yet I left there and I gave up a business to come here. Do you think Gary Keller, you know him, do you think he paid me as much as I was making? Not fourth. Not a fourth. Why? And people say, why would you do that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I care about this profession. I care about you. I care about you being able to not be away from your family at night without going home with something to show for it. When you leave your family, when you walk out that door and you go into a listing, that's your opportunity to give back to your family. That's your opportunity to give back to those people, to contribute to them. And I'm just here to contribute to you. If MAPS is not contributing to you and you see something that we should be doing, please let us know. Because I came here to make a difference. With people that want to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference. And I hope today I made a difference in your life. Thank you.